Yeah, hello Christiane. So
Hi, dear
great that you
Hannah.
that you took the time talking to me from Brazil, from the other side of the
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
really
Thank you
happy.
for. Mm,
Mm, really
Good,
happy you're
thank you.
here. Very welcome. Thank you. Yeah, and we had this conversation the other day where you were saying that it's we were talking about community, conscious community, and what it
Mm.
means, what it takes. And then you were saying that there very often is a mix-up when people talk about community, they mix it up with organizations. And I was really intrigued by that because the topic of community, how can we build a
Mm.
society or community in a better world, really is been with me all my life. So I would be really interested to hear what you have to say about that.
So, um, yeah, let me just start once again. Thank you for the invitation. I love the topic, and I do think it is a highly relevant topic at this time. And I think I would like to give a little bit of a background how I arrived at this topic. Because, there some people who know me know that I come from the organizational world, from the self-organizational world. And the core topic that I have been working with over the past um, 15 years, uh, besides the topic of love and power, is also the topic of um, the relational aspect in um, so generally focusing on the self-organization, self-management, new work, teal, whatever you want to call it, world, because I just simply think that the management hierarchy as a system is going to shift and transcend. It's still got to be a while. So my focus is in this other way of collaborating, other way of being together. And in the world of self organization, self management, I soon found out that some things just simply don't work again. Oh, I'm sorry about the
Yeah, it
hand.
does that automatically.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll lower the hand. Anyway, I'll try and keep. I like talking with my hands, so I'll try and keep my hands down.
Sometimes Zoom does
Um,
funny things. Yeah, let's see if it does
yes,
it.
yes, yes, yes. Or we do this, and then you
Uh-huh.
get the bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so um, very soon after starting to get engaged, co-create, deliver, teach, whatever, that whole field of self-organization and self-management and practicing, I found out what worked and what didn't work. And so my curiosity, ever curiosity of learning more, took me deeper into what didn't work.
Mhm.
And that what I experienced and what I then put into the center of my work was the differentiation of looking at the organizational system and the social system. So, um, and how can we understand that there are different dynamics in those fields, relational dynamics, um, and that these different dynamics call for different processes to deal with the dynamics.
Mhm.
And at the time, this is like more than 10 years back, and the topic of community wasn't that much in the forefront as it is today. And thankfully, I have to say. and then over the years, I got engaged with communities and because as we all know, there's this huge desire for connection in community.
Mhm.
And then I started to realize that actually the social system of a, what I now call a collaborative endeavor, that can be a corporation, any kind of company, a sports club, whatever, a cooperative, be it, for profit, not for profit, whatever, any form where people come together and try to achieve something together. To me, it all is one thing, and I call it a collaborative endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
And all collaborative endeavors, and a community, as we talk about it today, is a collaborative endeavor, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All collaborative endeavors inherently have the need to organize, meaning to coordinate efforts,
Mm-hmm.
right? And have the need to be in relationship on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
And as we have more and more community building and community, a need for community and desire for community coming up in the world, at the same time, over the past years, I saw over and over again that many communities first get a lot of excitement, and we want as many people as possible to join this community, right? And then you have, okay, this is not a proven statistic, I'm just saying any number, okay? You have, let's say, 100 people, 3 people do the work
Mm-hmm.
to keep the community going, and the rest are consumers,
Yes.
right? And that ends up, for the 3 people who do all the work, to be very frustrating, because often there is, of course, no reciprocity in the sense of either financial flow or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many people come in, and I have to say that is also an experience. Many people come in with the hopes to kind of promote their own thing that might be very much aligned with the community. That's not generally a bad thing, but it depends. Are you there in the interest of the community, or are you there in the interest of your own offerings, services, whatever, right? And that's a priority question. So, and many communities suffer greatly from that. And then, when the few people who do the actual work, aka organize, aka coordinate efforts, right? When they start to say, okay, look, we've created, I don't know, a platform, whatever, and now you can self-organize. Again, there's a misunderstanding of what self-organization is here, right? But anyway, so guys, if you want something to happen, here's the platform. You go and self-organize that, and nothing happens. So after being part of communities, or talking to people who have gone through this experience, and I'd be really interested if that resonates with you and with the experience that you have, I have come to the conclusion, or to the perspective, let's say that my perspective is, a community isn't an organization, but a community needs organization or organizing. And this brings me back to the work that I have been doing for more than 10 years, and what I now call conscious collaboration, is we need to be able to differentiate what is the social field and what is the organizational field, and get clarity of expectations in each of those, I call them contexts. Understanding that none of those contexts, so the community context, in the business world, I've been calling this the people context, right? So every organization therefore has a community.
Yeah.
It has a social system. Whether this social system is aware of being a community or not is a whole different question. Okay. But at least if you have a community, you now have the community and a missing awareness of the organization that is needed. So it's really and those two contexts, those spheres are completely interconnected and interdependent.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it is super useful to be able to differentiate the expectations, the dynamics, the processes to deal with the dynamics in each of those spheres. And that's deep exploration. I'll leave it at there for
That's
now,
wonderful.
right?
I'd be really interested to hear how this view. I resonate very strongly. I've seen it happen I've been around in and around communities a lot, and I've seen it happen there everywhere, just as you say. And how did you come to this understanding through your expertise or experiences with holacracy? Because as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, this might be a very sort of amateur way of looking at it. In holacracy, it's all about organization, and you keep the private life or your private feelings completely out of it, which I always heard whenever I talked to people who were in an organization trying to apply holacracy, it didn't really work, or it was kind of frustrating. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah. So my journey into self-organization began with holacracy. So
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for an alternative to the management hierarchy, and I, actually through the integral community, I learned about sociocracy and holacracy, and at the time, holacracy was what seemed to me already the more state of the art kind of thing. And I went
Mm-hmm.
for holacracy to get
Mm-hmm.
trained and to deliver. And at the time, to me, this was like, I was like all in. It's like, oh my God, this is sort of like, I mean, I didn't express it that way, but it felt like a silver bullet. This is the game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And well, of course, there is always a yes and.
Then life
And
happened.
then life happened. But I have to say, until today, I am a really great holacracy aficionado because
Mm-hmm.
it taught me so much.
Yeah.
It sent me on a personal journey, learning journey. But it's not for everybody. It's not for every, like there is no. So, and holacracy has come a far way since
Mm-hmm.
over the past 15 years. But the one thing that, and coming back to what you said about it's all about the organization, and we know the question, so what about the people? I think that's again a question of navigating expectations,
Mm-hmm.
because holacracy is in fact a self-organizing, or they call it self-managing. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. It is a tool to coordinate effort in service of a purpose. That means to coordinate work in service of a purpose. It is not a tool to navigate the relational field.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. So I think I have often said that holacracy markets itself as a full-scale replacement of the management hierarchy. And I think that's not true,
Mm-hmm.
because the management hierarchy includes people taking care of people, or at least managing people.
Managing
And with
people,
whether they take care, I'm not sure, but they manage. Okay. Or, yes, there were a lot of movements around, HR, and which, by the way, now is always called human resources, but originally was called human relations. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
an
I didn't know
interesting.
that.
Oh yes,
Wow.
HR began out as human relations, but then I don't know when, but eventually everybody calls it human resources, which is a very interesting shift, right?
Wow.
So so HR, I leave it at that, I think was installed with the intention of taking care of the people's needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And align it with the organizational needs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know that this only goes so far in a management hierarchy. And then comes holacracy. And holacracy is a tool to coordinate effort in service of the organization's purpose. And it does not, by design, it does not manage the people because of um, the sort of the unconditional acceptance of the autonomy of people. And but to be able to that shift from a management hierarchy that says it manages the work and it manages the people and it takes care of people, the managing the people and taking care of people is ripped out, and the managing the work, that's what holacracy covers.
Mm-hmm.
By design, holacracy says that's not needed. Well, no. I'm not true. I'm not sure this is true. But by design, it doesn't care about that. It is the tool, the system,
Mm-hmm.
because it is just a structure with
Yeah.
processes,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
the processes that develops the structure in service of purpose. It doesn't
Mm.
care, right? It just
Yeah.
cares about the purpose.
The way I
And
understood it is not that it doesn't care, but that it's up to the individual to take care of their own personal needs. That it's not the organization is not designed for that, or
that's
the
true.
holacratic structure is also not designed for that.
Because from a holacratic perspective, the organization, it, it's not the organization's work to take care of people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it isn't. The thing is, I think there are those organizations where holacracy works really well. Those organizations have understood that holacracy is only part of the deal, and that there is the human relational field that needs to be built in parallel.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think organizations who don't understand, who treat holacracy as a full scale replacement,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it doesn't work. And if the collective of the people is willing to do the work
Mm-hmm.
collectively to build a strong social system
Yeah.
that will support the organizational system, that's when holacracy
Yeah.
is really, really
Mm-hmm.
a perfect tool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that comes back to your question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as much as the doing if you do holacracy, and you don't care about the community, there's something missing.
Mm-hmm.
If you do okay, it depends what you understand. So I want to come away from holacracy and
Mm-hmm.
go more towards what do we understand by organizational organizing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the organizing, so from my perspective, there's a collaborative endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A business, a community, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a collaborative endeavor, meaning it is a sphere where people come together to get something done. That's very, very
Yeah.
broadly said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ideally to serve a purpose, but let's say, I mean, it could be a project, right?
Mm-hmm.
within this collaborative endeavor, you now have the context of where work needs to get done, coordinated and done, and we need a structure, and we need processes, and we need policies, and we need, we need all the aspects, all the aspects of a system within systems, right? So a structure, and so on. This, you can draw that on a piece of paper, right? You say, I mean, if you do role-based work, you have circles and you have roles, and you have the description of the roles, and you have the description of the processes and the meeting formats and blah, blah, blah. This is everything that can be written down, right? And can be changed and can be seen on a sheet of paper. So like it's a structure. That's what the organization is. It's the container.
Right hand quadrants.
Well, no.
Not entirely. Okay.
Not entirely.
Okay.
I have had this conversation many times. You know what? If we want to go into integral, let's go and make the differentiation between the dynamics of an individual holon.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And a collective holon. Okay? An organization represents an organism, and as such, an individual holon. It is connected to the social holon, which of course is the sum of individual holons as a collective holon, right? So this is why, to me, this is really important. And it's interesting. There's actually a video, if you want to go approach it through the integral lens, there's a video of Ken Wilber explaining the difference between an individual holon and a social holon. And it's like very clear, okay? Like I love his example of where he says there's a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dog has the I-ness, and the head can't go over to the corner. The whole dog has to go.
Yeah.
But you have a flock of geese, okay, and which is a social holon, and one of those geese can actually go to the corner or fly somewhere else, and the social holon shapes up in a new form, but it remains a social holon. That's the difference, okay? Now, so coming back to what is an organization is an organism, an individual holon that has parts that are wholes and has parts and parts. You know that one, right? But it is the structure within which and how work is coordinated in service of purpose. If there are no people, then this is a dead structure.
Yes.
Right? It's just a dead structure. We can draw it. It takes someone to draw it, right? But it cannot live. So
it's not going to achieve any purpose, yeah.
Exactly. So here comes the social holon, okay, with its parts, right? And the people who form this social holon bring their life energy, their time, their talent, their energy, and energize the parts, the organism. It's like the blood and the air, the breath. Okay, we people are the blood and the breath. Okay, we're the breathing. We make that organism breathe and pump, right? Because our energy energizes the system by taking on roles, but surrendering our individual interest, our individual purpose, our individual needs, right? We need to surrender those as much as possible, or in case they interfere with the serving the organization's purpose, to up to a certain extent, to an extent that is workable for us, okay? Because it is not the organization serving the people. It's the other way around. We people serve the organization to achieve its purpose. And we step into role, and then we shift our perspective. That's the work I do with conscious collaboration, right? We shift our perspective. The lens is now the role lens with its purpose to be in, to do whatever is needed to be in service of the organization's purpose. Now, and then like an actor playing King Lear, he energizes that role, okay, in service of the whole play. And when he's done, he steps out of the role, takes off that coat, and he is not the role. He just takes it on, right? So the same is, we energize, we take on roles to be in service of the organization, to bring our time, our talent, and our energy to be in best service and express it through a role. Yet, at the same time, we're still me with all my needs, right? And while I collaborate maybe with you, we are in role, but in parallel, we are in relationship.
Okay.
Outside of the roles.
Okay.
Right? And and that's what happens in communities, in every single endeavor. As soon as those two levels aren't completely fulfilling in expectation, right?
Yeah.
Then we start feeling
abused.
Something's off. Or whatever, misunderstood, not heard, other people are unreliable, blah, 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 blah. And then we start to, that conflation of those two levels, we start to play our personal stuff through our organizational work or vice versa, because we don't have yet built the capacity of that differentiation. That those are parallel dynamics that need to be explored, reflected on, explored, understood from different perspectives. And we need to understand that resolving a role, a work-related tension, right, needs one process, but the frustration and the anger and maybe the hurt in our relationship needs a totally different process. We need, and that's where those two contexts kind of are. They belong together, and yet it is super useful to have a very clear differentiation. And that means, now comes the growing edge. That means that through that differentiated reflection and introspection and inquiry of what belongs where, we are immediately invited to increase our self-awareness in our relational aspect, in our what actually is it that is happening in this relationship, and what is my role in it? And how can I learn more about the other person or the other people's perspective to understand better what's happening here? And we all know that this means increasing our self-awareness and increasing our capacity on self-reflection. And I'm currently thinking about that term, self-awareness and self-reflection, because I don't know if this is that there is no awareness of self without the awareness of other, and vice versa. Right? So anyway, but the fact of being able to observe the non-judgmental non-judgmental observing of what is actually going on, observing, exploring, inquiring from my perspective and others' perspective is what becomes a necessity when you understand that differentiation, which means that not only can we better work together, but we can also build completely different quality of relationships because of the level of reflection and introspection and inquiry and so on. And I think one of the core topics, and then I'll be done, is sort of expectations. How much do we know about our own expectations? How clearly have we developed the capacity to speak about our expectations? It's all easy to speak about expectations when they're all fulfilled, but what if they're not, right?
Yeah, and if we're aware of them to start with.
And if we are aware, exactly, right? That's one thing. And so just to round that up is that, I've been working for the last 12 years facilitating that differentiation and integration process with literally hundreds and hundreds of people. And it is quite incredible what the difference it makes when that differentiated perspective taking sinks in. Because then we are able to take full responsibility for our actions.
And for our emotions, for our own state.
Yeah.
Also.
Yes. For our own state and for our own self-awareness, self-leadership, especially the self-leadership, which I think is the only leadership that, there's collective leader. There's self-leadership and then there's collective leadership. So anyway, but that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And just coming back to the community thing, I think when in organizations, the focus is mostly on how to coordinate work. In community, it's mostly about how to coordinate relationships and passions and being there for a certain idea and something that we all want to engage with, but it's mostly focused on the relationship, and therefore it's so hard to do the organizing part. And in a company, I think it's probably the other way around.
Yeah, one thing I found really interesting, I underlined here, is that in an organization we have to surrender our individual needs. And that's something this should be very, very clear when you sign the contract or when you sign up for something, that you want to surrender because you're so much aligned with the purpose of the organization that you're willing to do that. And I wonder whether that's the same for a community. Needs to be.
It's probably, thank you for picking that one up, because I think it might be the wording, the way I put it might be misleading. So you have to surrender is a very totalitarian way of saying. You are invited to surrender is maybe the better way of saying. And you brought it down to the point it comes to, and that is purpose alignment. Okay? So purpose alignment, meaning the purpose of a collaborative endeavor is super important to actually navigate the work in order to fulfill that purpose. If I join this endeavor, this collaborative endeavor, community, company, whatever, and the purpose inspires me, and it's like, wow, yes, that I really would love to contribute to that. I sense purpose alignment. That means my personal purpose, which is distinctly different from the for sure from the organization's purpose, but there's resonance, and the work that I do in the organization makes sense both in service of the organization's purpose and my personal purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like my personal purpose is the unification of love and power. And you know my engagement in the power shift ecosystem, where it's all about shifting our relationship to power, which I think is, and that's where the purpose alignment comes from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really write about that in my book. So the purpose alignment is really important, and it's like a magnetic field, like it pulls us together. Now, purpose is an evolutionary phenomenon. It changes, right, over time as we learn ever more about it through expressing the work. And that can mean two different things: that it gets even closer, or the purpose of the organization develops in that direction, my personal purpose develops in the other direction, and therefore we get less purpose alignment. And then I will maybe feel that I do not want to surrender my personal needs, which always are driven by what for me feels necessary to do. But then it is my conscious decision to say, hey, that doesn't feel right anymore. And then I don't want to surrender anymore. And I make a conscious, well-informed decision of saying, okay, guys, it's time for me to step out. Right? So when I say we have to surrender, that's not true. As long as we feel good about surrendering, and yes, it always has challenges, blah, blah. We have tensions to process and so on. That's all good. But in an overall sense, as long as I say, okay, I understand that I need to surrender my own personal interest.
That's it.
In service of the organizational, then it's good. And the collective, okay?
Yeah.
So, and in a community, coming back to your question, it's just the same in a community. Why are we here in this community together? And I think there are many reasons to form a community, but I think there's always something that gives an answer to the question, why do I want to be part of this community? Why is this community forming? What is the creative potential? What can this community, what is the difference? What can this community do in the world? And what need in the world? And I mean, there's no one right? But I think then, that I'm just trying to think of an example. Oh God. No, let's not name any one particular community. It's like
no, it's not necessary. We all have our own experiences and images and can relate to what you're saying. I have to say, for me, surrender is a very positive word. I mean, I'm a Tibetan Buddhist, so surrendering to my guru, to my teacher, is been so helpful, and surrendering the ego in a way, and. So when you said we have to surrender, I wasn't like, oh, I don't want to surrender, but this is really interesting because I want to, when I'm in favor of when I want to be part of an organization, then I do want to surrender, because the purpose of the organization during the time I'm working for it, it's more important than my lunch or whatever, or my relationships, maybe.
Like for you, surrender to me is a really beautiful word. It's and what the energy and the emotional quality that it holds is something super beautiful to me.
Yeah.
And there's another surrendering needed, and that is I in the many years that I've worked with that, I have found that for many people, it is very difficult to understand the difference between a group of people and a collective. So the collective is a whole, okay? It's a system.
Yeah.
And the qualities of that system, and you know that, I mean, you've heard that sentence, I mean, probably used it a million times. That whole system is way more than just the sum of its parts.
That's right.
So in order to form a thriving social system, a collective, we need to surrender just enough of our own independence, autonomy, agency, purpose, whatever, in order to be in service to the whole. Surrendering doesn't mean kicking out, letting go. That doesn't, I mean, we know what surrender means. It just, there is a priority for the collective. And as a part of that collective, I serve the collective first and foremost, and then I serve myself. And I think that's something that is an interesting topic in a community.
Yeah,
that the community is a social system, and a system has emergent properties. That means the system as a whole has qualities and properties that none of its parts has. And those properties can only emerge because of the construction of the social system and its collective intelligence and dynamics and so on. And I think that maybe that is a topic that is not addressed enough in community building, that a community can, in my perspective, can only function if it understands itself as a whole social system, as a true collective.
Yeah, almost.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's when the community can, that's like the whole dance with the individual and the social hold on, right?
Yeah.
But that no social hold on consists without individual hold ons and vice versa. So
yeah. And
but
the flock of geese can go in one direction.
Yes.
Without bumping into each other.
Yeah. And then again, in a community, people can leave the community and it might have an impact, probably has, but it won't, unless it's something really dramatic, it won't kill the social hold on. But going back to the whole system as a collective, as a whole system, that can only form if we surrender to the whole system, as long as we are comfortable with it. If we try to use the whole system primarily for our own individual interests, that harms the system. And the system is so strong that it'll spit you out.
And it just strikes me, maybe a good way to wrap up even, how much this has to do with love and power. Because love, by definition, is being more interested in your well-being than in mine.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Yes. And there's many different ways of for me, love is that what connects everything and therefore brings the interest.
Yeah.
For me, love is that what connects everything, and therefore a community is a very classical field of love if we understand that everything is connected with everything, and that as a whole we form a system that is again only connected with other systems and so on. So
by love,
and to realize it, to realize, to self-realize, not self us, but the collective, to self-realize its purpose that's what power is there for.
Mm.
So we
Mm.
can do that in a loving and powerful way.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you
So
so much, Christiane. That was really very,
thank you.
very insightful. I've taken a lot of notes and it's really, yeah, understood much more what you're trying to say, and really appreciate all your experience, how you're bringing together all your years of decades of experience into something very, very beautiful, very coherent
Wow,
that
thank you
the
so
world
much, Hannah.
needs.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful because, as I said before, dialogue for me is something so important. So I really would like to thank you so much for your questions and for opening up this space.
Yeah, I'm sure it
So
won't be the last
grateful.
one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more, Hannah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.